But Brandon, let's move on into our next topic. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, Brandon. This topic comes from, it was actually pseudo-suggested by our own Dave Oster here at Most Valuable Podcast, because him and myself were out to dinner at B-Dubs on Saturday, and we were watching the USC Texas game, and we're like, we're not going to leave until this one was over. And through the dinner, Dave kept mentioning USC and overrated. USC and overrated. So I thought, let's have a little discussion here on the Primetime Podcast, because you have USC, they go up against Texas. Everyone's not high on Texas because of so far how they have played this year. You've got USC, they're up 14-10, then they're up blah, 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 blah. Basically, it goes to overtime. They have to win in overtime by 3 points, 27-24. This is also a USC team that also didn't play that well against Western Michigan to come out of the gates in week one. So, Brandon, I'm going to kick it over to you first, because who else am I going to kick it to? Is USC overrated?
No, I don't think USC is overrated, but I do think that USC is experiencing a little elongated shaking off the rust period. Mm-hmm. And I don't think they're overrated because they still have Sam Darnold. They still have some really good weapons on that offense. But they just haven't been coming alive as quickly, I think, as they would like to. Mm-hmm. And also, I think that, you take a look at their schedule so far, and they played a really tough week one game. Sam Darnold wasn't able to throw a touchdown, but they were able to, get the win. They played pretty darn well against Stanford in week two. And then you play Texas, a team that really has been kind of just, all across the board for what feels like too long now. Mm-hmm. Certainly no shades of the Vince Young days. I think that right now, this was a rivalry game. It doesn't matter if Texas is good, if Texas is not good, if USC is good or not good. It's going to be a good game. So I don't think that you can start the USC as overrated just yet. Now, if USC starts to get through the middle of their season and they're playing within their conference, mm-hmm. and they're really struggling, then I think that we could start to say, okay, what's going on here? Maybe there was too much hype around the Trojans. But for right now, they're 3-0. They're 3-0. You can go ahead and say they're overrated all you want, but I don't think that they are. I still think that, maybe we were too quick, and this is not me saying or even opening the door to them being overrated.
It's okay.
Yet.
You can tell you can tell me that I was too hyped on them.
It's maybe we got too excited, and myself included in that. And Sam Darnold at the end of last year, and we believed mm-hmm. that he would be immaculate. That he was Jesus' brother and
the second coming of football Jesus.
Could do no wrong. Mm-hmm. But that's where it's on us, because we then believe, okay, when he throws an interception, oh my gosh, he's mortal. But, I think that's where we kind of fall down. If he's mm-hmm. still able to win the football game, that's all that matters, because at the end of the day, wins are the only thing that matters. So ultimately, after that whole spiel, mm-hmm. the USC Trojans are at this point, in my mind, not overrated.
Well, and here's the thing that I look at is, first off, you can tell me straight to my face, Ricky, you were overhyping them, because I am looking right now at our video from the college football playoff prediction, and you remember what I did to the Trojans at that time, Brandon.
You crowned them.
I gave them the big old smooch of death, or the kiss of death, and crowned them the champions over Alabama. So part of me is kind of like, okay, maybe that's playing into the effect a little bit. I know the ego's getting boosted a little bit. Look at the New York Giants as well. It's working pretty fine. But I look at Sam Darnold, and here's the biggest takeaway, I think, from 2 games in. We look at last year. Last year, he only had 9 interceptions, 31 touchdowns. So far through this season, 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He has thrown 2 touchdowns 2 interceptions, in every single game this season. Last year, guess how many games he had with 2 INTs? 2 was the most he's ever thrown in a game, by the way. Guess how many he had last year?
1.
2. Those opponents at Washington, game where they got the win, at UCLA, game where they got the win, had 2 touchdowns, 2 INTs in those games. The only 2 times, and those were late in the year, those were November 12th and November 19th back-to-back games. So to me, I don't think that USC is overrated, but I do think the reason why we're seeing a little bit of a sluggishness, especially in the they had the West Virginia game. They were very sluggish in that one. Darnold didn't even have a touchdown. Then the Stanford game happened, and we got
Western Michigan.
Yeah,
Not
Western Michigan. Western Michigan, that's what I was thinking. Then the second game against Stanford, and we got a little bit like, oh, okay, like this is the Trojans that we were thinking of. Because, yeah, Darnold threw 2 INTs in that game, but he had 4 touchdowns against Stanford. So it's like, okay, he's back. He's almost back. And then Texas happens, and he had 3 touchdowns, but he had 2 INTs, and he almost had 4 touchdowns because after getting the fumble in overtime, what does Sam Darnold do? Fuck it, we're going for the touchdown, even though we only need the field goal, and the only reason he didn't get it was his wide receiver couldn't hang on to the ball through the catch. But I feel like this is a team that right now, I like their defense. Only giving up, except for the Western Michigan game, 24 points per contest, very manageable from a defensive side. And if that defense can just stay hold and just let Darnold, like you said, and we've said earlier, 2 to 3 weeks, you start shaking off the rust. And yeah, they might have a little bit of a longer shake off right now. Once Darnold can shake off the rusts and get back to what he was last year, a guy who barely turned over the football, and when he did, it might have been 1 interception in the game. If he can get back to that, then I think it's going to be, okay, that's the USC team we expected. We did not expect Sam Darnold to be, like you said, a mere mortal.
So you said you like their defense. Mm-hmm. I don't. I think their defense has been piss poor. And I say that because take a look at what they did last year. Mm-hmm. So they had 3 losses in the first 4 weeks. You know, we all remember the game 1 against Alabama. Mm-hmm. It was going to be such a great game, and it wasn't. 52-6. They gave up 52 points in that game. They beat Utah State 45-7. They lost to Stanford and then Utah, respectively, 27-10 and 31-27. And then they didn't lose again that season. And their defense then gave up 20 points, 17, 14, 24, 20, 13, 14, 27. And then the big Rose Bowl game where they gave up 49, but they still won because they scored 52. So I went through that. So then all the rest of their wins, they didn't give up 30 or more points until that Rose Bowl game. And in the 20s, so they gave up 20 to Arizona State, 24 to Cal, 20 to Oregon, 27 Notre Dame. And even at 20, that's not I don't think that's that bad. But now 31, 24, and mm-hmm. 24. I know that they got the win. They've gotten the win in all of them, mm-hmm. which is good. But you start to get into your conference play, you give up 24 points, and Sam Darnold's still throwing 2 INTs. Because that's not going to be very good for you. I'm not saying that you're going to lose that game then, but this defense, as much as Sam Darnold needs to step up his game a little bit to kind of come somewhere near where he was last year, because that's where a lot of people were expecting him to be, this defense needs to pick it up. They need to turn on the gears and get things going, because right now they don't look good. That's my opinion.
I think they look better than they did last year. Especially and the thing I like most about this USC defense is up front. Their defensive line is, I think, their best aspect, because, I mean, in this last game, it showed more. They were able to get after the quarterback late in the game, and also the rushing yards. Like, after being, I'll admit, against Western Michigan, they let Bellamy kind of burn them for 102 yards. And in Stanford, they let Bryce Love burn them for 160 yards and a touchdown. But with Stanford, we kind of knew that they were going, like, they're going to get their rushing yards. It's basically the same system they ran with Christian McCaffrey. It's just who's going to be this year's Christian McCaffrey with Stanford. But then we get to Texas and, 15, 14, 11, and 10. Those were the top rushers for the Longhorns in that. And you could say, well, the Longhorns don't have that rusher, that kind of run game that maybe the Stanford Cardinal had. But I still think as this season goes on, that front is just going to get better and better and better. And I'll be honest, like, everyone's calling for Ettlinger to be the new starter for Texas, but he was even a guy that 2 touchdowns, 2 INTs, had a worse rating at the end of the game than Sam Darnold. I don't think that the Trojans are over, like, I'm going to say this. I do think that maybe, how do I phrase this? I'm trying to phrase it where I don't think they are overrated, but based on how they're playing right now, I could see where someone could think that they are overrated, because this is a team that has the pieces to be not only a playoff team, but to be a national champion contending team. Most of it starts at the quarterback position. If you have, like, look at the Patriots, and I know I've been comparing college football to the NFL a lot so far tonight, but look at the Patriots in the NFL. You have the best quarterback in the league 9 out of 10 times, maybe 9.9 out of 10 times. People are going to say that team is locked for the playoffs, has the best chance of winning the Super Bowl each and every year. Same thing in college football. If you have the best quarterback in college football, and I know it's a little bit different, you can't really go off of the Heisman because look at a guy like Lamar Jackson, who has all the skills, is, some would say, is the most talented in the college football world, where we got that comment last week on our Rosen video. But if you have the most put together quarterback, it's going to give you a better chance to win the game. And I think that's where USC is right now. I'm not saying that Darnold, it's like, what are you doing, Darnold? You're an idiot. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. I just think Sam Darnold's not playing up. Like, he's obviously not playing up to where he was last year. And that's why USC is where they're at right now. They just got to shake off the rust. And the thing that I look at is this next game coming up at Cal. Cal played I know they were down early in the game against Ole Miss this last week, but they're a team that if you give them chances, they could be an upset special in week 4.
Yeah, I think that right now USC, they haven't hit their stride yet, and they're still 3-0. So when USC is able to hit their stride, I think that that's when people will start to say, okay, here's the USC team that we believed we were going to get, and that's the USC team that I think we're still going to be able to get, Ricky. So it's right now, it's been, like I said, it's the rust. I don't look at it as being overrated. I look at it as they've just had a slow start to the season, and that is okay because they're still 3-0. And so there's not the chirpy, okay, what's wrong with them? They're broken, blah, 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 that crap. But I think that they do need to pick it up, and hopefully it starts here in week 4 against Cal.
And the one thing I do want to bring up, because not many people were on his side about a month ago when we had the comment on our UFC football video, but I got to shout out commenter Chris Bed, because this is a comment he had a month ago. You ready for this? I'm taking all bets. I got Texas. Y'all are in for a surprise. We've been out recruiting USC the last 3 years, but we don't have a shot. Ha ha ha. That's funny. I'll be honest. A lot closer than I thought it would be in this game. I didn't think this was going to be a game that goes to overtime between Texas and USC.
Double overtime.
But I kind of feel like this is USC. If you were to ask me, Ricky, after 3 weeks seeing USC, are you going to change your playoff prediction? And the only thing I may change, like if I'm like sitting there and I'm going, okay, if I have to change something, I may put Alabama as the winner in that championship game. However, like you said, just got to knock off the rust. So I'm not changing anything USC is still my national champion over Alabama. Although there's a part of me that's like, Ricky, just make the change. Make the change. Alabama's looked like a complete team. But I want to ask you, because I can't remember if you had USC in your college football playoff, but after these 3 games, do you still think A-OK, USC fans don't have to worry, their team could most likely be a playoff team at the end of the regular season?
Gosh, I'm trying to remember. Did I have them in my college football playoff? I'm sure that I did.
I know who you did that I didn't, and that was the Oklahoma State Cowboys.
I'm sure that I did, but do they still have a shot? Yeah, they still have a shot. Yeah, they still have a shot to be a playoff team. I mean, they're ranked the number 5 team. There's, we can't.
You did have them, and you had them losing in the Rose Bowl to the Cowboys.
Okay, I think that they definitely are still a very good contender for the playoffs, but they're gonna have to pick up their game. Mm-hmm. They're gonna have to pick up their game if they want to get there. And I think that they can because, again, we haven't seen the best that USC football has to offer in these first 3 weeks, and they've won all 3 of them. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a really big thing as well that speaks volumes. So it'll be kind of exciting and interesting to watch USC the rest of the season.
Well, and a good thing for USC is, number one, they do not have to play the Huskies so far. They do not have to play Washington. They also get Colorado and UCLA later in the season. However, they got 2 big games coming up. They've played all their games so far in the Coliseum the next 2 weeks, the 23rd and the 29th. They will be on the road at Cal and Washington State. We will get to see in the next few weeks how this team plays on the road, which could be very interesting, and we'll see. To me, the biggest thing is Darnold just needs to go back to being godlike, and if he can go back to being a Greek god for the Trojans, see what I did there? Trojans, Greek god.
Greek god, I got you, man.
If he
You're
can
funny.
go ahead and do that, then this team will be A-OK. However, I don't think you need to hit the panic button 3 weeks into the year, especially when you're up 3-0. But this is where I want to turn on to you guys. Let us know down below, do you think USC is overrated? USC fans, are you a little worried after these first 3 games, especially the Western Michigan and the Texas game? Are you worried about this team moving forward? And do you think Sam Darnold, I almost called him Sean Darnold, Sam Darnold, can he snap back into the 31-9 touchdown to interception ratio quarterback that we saw a year ago? Let us know down below in the comment section.